Hey, welcome to another episode of After the Buzzer podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones, with my co-host today, the Hall of Famer, Mr. Marvin Owens. What's up, Mar?
What's going on, Lee? How are you today?
Hey, man, it's a beautiful day in Memphis, Tennessee. I cannot complain. We have some hot topics today. I wanted to, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to give you the rundown. We're going to talk about one of your homeboys from South Carolina, Marv. I know you know this cat very well. I wanted to get your take on it as he's having sort of a breakout year with the Memphis Grizzlies. I want to get, and I'm talking about G.G. Jackson. I want you to educate our audience on G.G. and what's going on. We're going to talk about college football approving the 5+7 format for the new college football playoffs. EA Sports is trying to get name, image, and likeness for over 11,000 college football players to be in their new game. I want to get your thoughts on that. Should the NCAA increase the number of teams in the tournament? There's a lot of talk going on about that. You're a former college basketball player. I need to get your thoughts about that. They're talking about increasing it to up to 90 teams. So I want you to definitely hit us up on that. We're going to talk about the NFL and this Wonderlic thing and how some agents are talking about not even allowing their athletes at the NFL Combine next week to take the Wonderlic. And then finally, one that I'm looking very forward to, I need to get you're the Hall of Fame. I need to get your opinion regarding who is the NBA's MVP coming out of the All-Star break. So I'm looking forward to that one. But hey, let's kick it off right now. Again, guys, this is After the Buzzers Sports Podcast. We're on ISF Productions, guys. Like us, subscribe. We definitely want you to be a part of the show, so please comment and let us know your thoughts about the show. Marv, G.G. Jackson, homeboy from South Carolina, right there in Columbia. A breakout career right now with the Grizzlies, really playing well, averaging 11 points a game with the Grizzlies right now. His last five, he's averaging almost 20 points a game. Tell us about G.G. Jackson from what you know, how he came up through the ranks out there in South Carolina, and what is your opinion of him as a basketball player, Mark?
Well, first and foremost, my opinion about him as a person, like you're not gonna find a better kid. Like this kid is dedicated to his craft. He is definitely someone that you're gonna be able to count on in terms of a franchise in Memphis. So I love him as a person. It comes from a great family. His dad is a pastor. I don't know if a lot of people know that. Both of his parents were athletes. His mom ran track. So the upbringing is there. I think especially in Memphis with some of the stuff that's gone on lately with Ja and some of the other guys in Memphis, is a welcome change to have some stability at such a young age. So I think he's going to be great for the franchise in terms of the player. And I know we talked about this before, Lee. When he went to South Carolina, it was kind of, such high accolades, but there really was no team around him. And I think when he first got there, he was probably the youngest player in Division I college basketball. So, and a lot of people don't understand when you make that leap, no matter how good you are in high school, when you make that leap to the college ranks, it's a different game. Guys are
Yeah.
faster, they're more mature, they're stronger. And I don't think he was really ready for that level when he first got there. And there was a lot of people expecting him to kind of change the fortunes of South Carolina's basketball program because it just had been down in the dumps for a while. They got a new coach, and I'm lucky enough to have some insight because I have a couple friends on that staff. And he carried a lot of burden because everybody thought he was going to be the savior. So his freshman year really didn't work out the way that I think a lot of people thought it would, but there just wasn't enough around him to really help him and to really help him succeed on that level. So he left, which I think was the right thing to do. I don't think another year of college was really going to help him. Although if you look at USC this year, they've been, they've certainly
Yeah.
overachieved, and he probably would have been really, really good on that team. But you can't fault the kid for leaving. I think he did the right thing. And that you and I talked earlier about the eye-opening experience that he had in the G League, about guys being, these are professional basketball players. They're raising families, they're taking care of families. This is their livelihood, and it's a different experience when you get to the professional ranks. So he struggled because his game hadn't matured yet, right? There was still a lot of things about his game that needed a lot of work. His mid-range needed a lot of work. The size is there, the athleticism is there. You're never going to be able to question that. But when you get to the league, everybody got that, right? You looking at everybody that's looking you dead in the eye and D'ing you up and is just as good athletically as you are. So you got to have the little nuances that separates your game. And I think you're
Right.
starting to see him find that. But Lee, you and I both know the great equalizer when it comes to playing basketball, sports, or any facet of life is confidence. If you
Yes.
get confidence, if you start to get confidence in what you do and the things that you see and the way that you react to them, eventually your game is going to kind of catch up. And I think that's what you're seeing with him in Memphis. Memphis is doing a great job. They're bringing him along slowly. They're not putting a lot of pressure. They're letting him be free. They're letting him play. And I like what they're doing in terms of his development, because I think with Ja next year and Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr., with Gigi developing the way that he is, they're going to be pretty formidable. Get some size next year with Memphis, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I like what they're doing right now in terms of trying to bring him along. But he's a great kid. I've known about him. I've known him here in the state of South Carolina for a long time. He's brought up the right way. So Memphis, you guys got a gem, and I look forward to watching his career develop.
I love his honesty, Marv. They did a special on Gigi, I think it was last week, and he, to your point, we talked about this. He came in and he was amazed with the talent. They sent him down to the G League, and he was amazed with the talent that was there at the G League, because everybody thinks it's a step down from the NBA. No, those are NBA players who just need to develop their game a little bit more, and I was very impressed with him, one, admitting that. That's the honesty you're talking about. And then also how he put his head down, he worked, and he's got exponentially better. And he's really, really coming to his own as a scorer, as a defender. Like I said, his last 5 games, averaging close to 20 points a game. He's shooting the 3 ball very well. So he's coming along really, really well. And I like what the Grizzlies are doing. They're letting these young players play, Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi, and letting them gain experience so that their team next year is going to be just, I think, phenomenal if they can get some size. A question for me, Marv. He has a small forward's body, right? With weight, can he play both the 3 and the 4? Do you think, with some weight on him this year, or is that a stretch for him in helping out the Grizzlies?
No, I think that's where he'll probably settle. His frame, he can still gain to add some pounds. He's athletic as heck, but his frame can take it. And I think that when you start getting that pick and roll game, and you don't have to do a lot of switching with him, he could probably he could go from the point guard all the way to the 4, because he's athletic enough and quick enough to make that change and effectively guard. So I think that that's what you're looking at from him in terms of Memphis. And I keep saying this to everybody. I just like the way that they're bringing him along right now. And he's going to be an integral piece moving forward, because he's going to be so interchangeable. You can do a small lineup with him at the 4. You can do a bigger lineup with him at the 3, depending on how you kind of want to play this. So I really do think that Memphis is on to something here. And I think they're playing out the rest of the season. We talked about this earlier, trying to see where guys really fit. But I'm looking for them to make some big strides, make some trades in the offseason. But I think Memphis is in good shape.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sign a 4-year deal. 4th year is a team option. They can bring him along slowly. The money dictates that right now, so you don't have to have just a large push with him, and just bring him along slowly. But our rise and breakout star for the Memphis Grizzlies right now, Gigi Jackson. All of my Memphis people, please comment on it. If y'all like what Gigi's doing, let us know. We're going to keep onto that. We'll keep looking at Gigi, making sure that he's doing, but a fabulous young man, and we're looking for big things for Gigi. I want to switch it up a little bit. This week, Marv, the College Football Playoff Committee approved the 5+7, meaning for the new playoff format. And what that means is the 5 division winners will get automatic berths into the college playoffs that has expanded to 12 teams this year. And then the top 7, the next 7, will get at-large bids, and they'll play off. The top 4 of the conference winners will be seeded 1 through 4 and get a bye, and then the other 8 will play in the first round. Couple of things, Mark. What is your thoughts about it? The new look college 12-team playoff. What are your thoughts about it? I know you being an Alabama guy, you're going to automatically say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because Bama can get in every year. I know that's one of your comments, but being an Alabama guy, what do you think about this new format and how it's going to change the scope of college football?
I thought it was inevitable. I mean, this is we saw this. This is where it was going. They really had no choice in terms of how they were going to set this up. I wish it would have been done a little bit differently, though, in terms of the way the games are played. That Thursday, Friday, schedule and that's tough. I mean, from a fan base travel perspective, I just think they could have found a different way to kind of handle that. But what I would like to see is them do like D2. Why not just make every game, on a campus, right? The higher seed gets the game on the campus. Talk about excitement. Talk about bringing revenue back to a city, right? And really engaging fans in the games. I would have liked to have seen them do that. I also and just put the national championship game at a neutral site. I say make the Rose Bowl a national championship game every year. To me, I mean,
Beautiful, beautiful venue.
there's nothing like the Rose Bowl. I mean, if anybody's ever had a chance to go to a football game there, it's nothing like it. I know LA isn't the biggest football city, but when it comes to college football, the fans are going to embark. It's a great place for people to come to visit. That's going to spend a lot of money. So that's the way that I would have liked to seen them done it. But here's the interesting part about it that I think a lot of people are not talking about. There is no number or there's no cap on at-large bids from conferences.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so nobody's talked about this part of it, but everybody mad because it's two SEC teams and two Big Ten teams and three SEC teams and one Big 12, whatever. Y'all might as well get ready for the SEC and the Big 16 or whatever it is, invitational, because that's what it's about to become. Because listen, if we take in last year's model, right? They taking the top 12 teams. Last year, the SEC had 6 teams in the top 12. I mean, you talk about people that's mad. I know Lee gonna be mad because he can't stand it. But
Yeah.
it would have been 6 teams from the SEC if we using this model that would have made it to the college football playoff, right? And that's what you're getting ready to see. Especially, I know we'll talk about this down the line with the injunction that happened today with the NIL or yesterday with the NIL. Like this is what it's about to happen. It's about to become a 2-league race, and the other leagues are going to get left out. I don't want to hear about the Big 12 and Colorado and all of them. They'll get one team in. It'll be the conference champion. That'll be it, right? So be careful of what you wish for. All my SEC fans. Got some LSU people out there, got some Bama. We all united when it comes to the SEC. So we know we
Well,
getting 5 or 6 teams a year.
well, I don't know 5 or 6, Bob. I don't. So you're going to get the champion and the runner-up. We know that the teams, both SEC teams that play in the SEC championship, will get in, right? But now, when you're talking about a 3-lost SEC team, I don't think you're going to take that over a 1-loss, Big 12 team or whatever the case may be. So I don't know if we're going to get 6 or 7 teams in there the way it's looking, but I do think that the SEC will be well represented and the Big Ten. The interesting thing is, and you know how you guys are in the SEC, y'all try to take over everything, right? The Big Ten and the SEC is trying to combine and put pressure on the league to make the tournament 14 or 16 teams because, to your point, they want more teams from the SEC in this deal, which is, ludicrous. Stop trying to monopolize everything. You guys kill me with this stuff. You want to take over everything and try to make it so that your schools are the only thing that's going in
Well,
college football. That's ridiculous.
well,
Keep it
well,
at
to
12
be
right now. Let it expand and let it matriculate naturally. What were you going to say, Marv?
I mean, to be fair, coming from a Dallas Cowboy fans, I see you in all your Dallas glory this morning.
Okay, how I did it.
Dallas monopolizes everything when it comes to the NFL. The only thing difference between Dallas and SEC teams are championships, right? So
Okay.
what's
I feel you. I
what's
feel you.
wrong? What's
I feel
wrong
you.
what's wrong with us wanting more teams? And again, let's just go back to last year and the model of last year. Top 12 teams, 6 were SEC teams. How you gonna say finishing in the top 12 and we got 2 losses or 3 losses is going to dictate us not making a college football playoff over a 2-loss Kansas State team? It's not going to happen because the Big 12 is going to be trash. Their strength of schedule is going to be terrible, right? So in the ACC, let's not even talk about that. They may as well go ahead and just try to figure out a way, Florida State and Clemson, to get into the SEC or wherever they're going, because the ACC is on that same path. I don't know what they do with it because of basketball, but it's going to be interesting to see. And Notre Dame, they're on the outside looking in. I know a lot of people not talking about that, but not being part of a conference, they'll never get a bye. They're going to
Yeah,
have to try to find a way to get into a conference. So that's an interesting piece of it too with Notre Dame.
yeah, I think that'll push Notre Dame to finally getting into a conference, and it probably will be the ACC because they're already playing all those ACC games. But you're right, can't get the first round bye, can't be the four top four seeds. So that's sort of a disadvantage for Notre Dame. Now, of course, they're making boatloads of money from NBC and other revenue streams, so they might not care about it. But let me say, I think the committee is going to be smart enough to look at this a little bit differently. You know, last year, Mar, I mean, you took Alabama, Georgia, LSU, but after that, I mean, it was a crapshoot with the rest of those SEC teams. Let's be honest.
Missouri was really good. Ole
Well, I
Miss
take
blew
that
out a
back.
bit.
Missouri played well, but it was a crapshoot. Let's not just automatically pencil in 6, 7 SEC schools and think that's what the players. I'm excited about it because you finally get a chance to have 3 other strong teams, conference winners that for sure are going to get in there, and we're going to play off. Watch out for Colorado next year. I'm trying to tell you, I'm the first one to say it. They'll be in the playoffs. I like what Colorado is doing, but this format at least starts the process of really playing off. I like the fact that they're playing the first round at the higher seeds on their home field because I think that just adds to it. They're a higher seed, so they deserve it. That's the way the playoffs should be. And then the bowls, hey, they're never going to get away from the bowls because they're locked in contractually for the next 3 or 4 years to play at these bowls. So that's going to be part of it. But I love your idea. The Rose Bowl is the perfect place to watch a football game. Every seat in the Rose Bowl is a great seat. You can see it's a great venue, the pageantry of it. So I would love to make the Rose Bowl site, as you say, the site of the championship. And I think that's a great situation, and I think that'll be something we have to watch out for. But this is great. This is where we're going, 12-team playoff this year. The interesting thing is, Marv, it's only approved through through 2025,
right.
And then they have to reallocate. That's when you guys, how y'all try to strong arm people, and that's when you guys are going to come in, the SEC and the Big Ten, and try to make it 16 down the line. So
well,
we
you know that's what's coming. It's going to be 16. We both know that. I know you want to talk about the SEC, but we do run it. I mean, we got the most national championships. Let's not act like we talking about the Western Athletic Conference or the AAC. Like, we talking about the SEC, who runs college football. And as much as people love to hate the SEC, that's what makes it so popular, is because we are so good and we got so many people that hate. That sells, and people love to hate.
Similar to the Dallas Cowboys, right? Your
But again,
analogy,
we got
your
championships.
analogy was well taken earlier when you talked about the Cowboys. I love that. Last point on this, and then we can move on. I think at some point they're going to have to get a commissioner for this whole playoff.
Nick Saban.
See, there you go. See, I mean, I can't even get a point across without you coming with the SEC crap. But Saban's joining. Let's see how he does on ESPN's game day this year, and make sure he's not an SEC homer before we give him the commissionership. But we gonna keep on going down the line. But eventually, they're gonna have to get somebody to be the sort of that czar to run this, because again, it could get out of control with how these teams. And think about this. There are teams in the subdivision that play great football. I think about Memphis's team. They went 11-3 this year. And there are teams, so you have to design a format that gets some of those teams in, Mark, because we love a great upset, right? So in expansion in 2 years, let's make sure that every team has an opportunity to participate.
Yeah. Now, while I think that's a valiant comment, right? Like, let's give everybody an opportunity, but have we actually seen it? Have we actually seen a Memphis or Cincinnati when they got in, or Liberty when they got smacked to the white meat this year? I mean, have we seen that actually? Nobody wants to see those games, Lee. I know it sounds great. I know you're a man of the people, and it sounds good for the people. But come on, man, nobody wants to see this game. This is NCAA basketball, where a guy can get hot. This is college football, where depth matters and size and all the things that we talk about.
Absolutely.
Nobody want to see those games.
Well, with NIL, it sort of leveled the field, correct? And so we're
No.
going to see. There you go. We're going to get into that at some point again. But so leveling the field means teams are better, and we can see those upsets coming in. Let's move on. EA Sports. You remember the EA Sports game, Marv,
Used to
that
love it.
everybody had back in, I think 2012. They had the EA Sports college football. Well, now, as you know, Ed O'Bannon sued them, right? Back in 2012, 13, along that time period. They had to pay roughly $48 million in damages and legal fees. And so they stopped putting the game out. Well, the
Mhm.
game is going to come out next year with EA Sports doing a proposed NIL deal with all of college football players. They can opt in to doing this NIL deal with them. It's roughly, they're trying to do 85 players per team, affecting roughly 11,000 players. The interesting thing is, Marvin, this is what I want to get your comments and opinions on. Initially, they're only giving them in this deal $600 and a copy of the EA Sports game, which is valued at roughly $70. I mean, now let me throw this out there too before you comment, Marv. All 120 FBF programs have joined in. You know, all the conferences, the college football playoffs have joined in. They're even going to have the transfer portal on there and everything. So everybody has come under the umbrella of getting paid to do this EA Sports game. Now, I don't have the numbers on that because they haven't been released about what every one of those people are getting. But $600 in a game, Marv, talk to me about how that feels to you.
Well, you know, if you ask most players who play right now, they play because they love the game, right? They play because they're good at it. They love the game. Most of them would do it for free. I'll be honest with you. Most of them would do this for free and a copy of the game. Look, you talking to somebody who's been on the EA game before. I was on Coach K, and we didn't
But
even have names on it. I was on Coach K.
did you
All we
get a
had was
copy
a
of the
number.
game? Did you get a copy of the game with your Coach K?
I mean, I got a copy. I had to buy it, but I got a copy of it, and I still play it to this day. And you had the number 15 and you had the attributes and what they were good at. You love that. That's all kids want to see. But the $600 is ridiculous, man. Come on. Let's be real. And especially when you start talking about some of the higher tier players. But here's the interesting part to me though, right? With name, image, and likeness and all the things that we're starting to kind of navigate is what about the pay tiers within the game, right? I know a lot of people play these games, but for instance, like, are they going to have better players behind a paywall? Like, hey, if you want to get some of the all-time greats, or if you want to, because a lot of video games do that now. They put some of these things behind paywall, so once you buy the game, then there's a paywall to be able to use a transfer portal, or whatever the case may be, or to be able to unleash Bryce Young from last year. I don't know, whatever. But is there going to be that within the game? Because nobody knows how the game is set up. So if I'm a player, especially one like Shador Sanders or the cornerback, I just forgot his name at Colorado. Yeah. Like if you're one of those guys, hell no, do I not take $600 and let them use my name, image, and likeness in this game, because I don't know how this game is set up, and I'm set up to make way much more than 600 in a copy of a game. But the 50th guy on the team, that, yeah, sure, $600 in a copy of the game is great. Yeah, most of them will take it all day, every day. But there's a lot of guys who really stand to gain a lot more than $600 from this, and we're in a new age of college football, and we're in a new age of being able to negotiate these things for players. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see the top tier guys, how many of them are going to really buy into this 600, because we haven't seen a lot of the top tier guys have said that they were going to buy into this yet.
Yeah, nobody's really started the opt-in process started earlier this week, so we'll see how many players opt in. The main thing for me is royalties, right?
Right.
Royalties, and that's sort of what royalties. Okay, so I'm opting in this year. I play my 4 years at the University of Colorado or whatever the case may be, and then to your point, Marv, if someone wants to pull me out of the archives and have me play, do I get royalties
Mm-hmm.
for every time that I'm used in this game? And that's the key. It's, I don't, the $600 is irrelevant to me. At some point, 600, I wouldn't take 600, but that's another story. But the royalties, for the rest of my life, a player could pull out me, Lee Jones or Travis Hunter or whoever, and play using me. So every time that happens, I need to get paid. And they're not coming out with what the royalties are going to look like for these college players when this thing happens. And I think that's even bigger than the initial payment, because a one-time payment of whatever. Let's say they gave them $10,000. This game is going to be back. They're going to market this thing, and as the the college football playoff grows, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And they would have cleared the NIL hurdle. And so now, what do I get from years to come because I played in college football? That's where, Marv, it to me, I need to see more on the.
And this is something that you and I talked about before. Here's when you need a union, right?
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
the NFLPA,
absolutely,
like the
absolutely,
like with the licensing deal with EA Sports, and
absolutely.
they just cut a check to all their NFL players. It'd be nice to know what NFL players make off a Madden football game, right? It would be really nice. I mean, granted, there's only about 1,700 NFL players, but it'd be really nice to know what they make off of Madden, right?
Absolutely.
And you have a union to negotiate this for you, no matter how, to your point, no matter how far gone you are from playing at that university, you're still part of what helped create that game. So I don't know if you'll ever see a union in college football. They're going to have to. We already talked about this employee route, and I'm sure we'll get back to it before. There's a lot of things that kind of go into play, but this is where you need one in an instance like this.
I think you have to have one. I just think you have to have one, because now you're having a company. I think it's one team partners that are negotiating the deals for the
Mm-hmm.
players, but they're negotiating on behalf of EA Sports. There's no way that you're going to get a fair deal in that situation. So you're almost, with all of this stuff coming to a head, you almost have to have a union now for these players, because this is just the tip of the iceberg with all these deals, globally with these players and with name, image, and likeness. So you're going to have a union sooner than later to cover this stuff, because it's not going away. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And these players, some of them, they're not equipped at this
No,
point
no.
to look at the contracts and make these deals. And so you need representation going forward. I just think back to when you talked about Maurice Corrett. Remember Maurice Corrett,
Yep.
when he
Yep.
tried to
Ohio
sue the
State.
league to come in, and how just the whole legal process was just, he was a puppet in that whole thing, Marv, and to the point where he was physically capable of playing in the NFL when he
Mm-hmm.
sued. But
Mm-hmm.
because there wasn't a fervor for that to happen, he didn't win that case. Now, NIL is there. State law says it. So those kids need representation so they can understand what's going on in these
So,
countries.
so let me ask you this before we move on, real quick. With the injunction that happened yesterday, right? You know, I felt two ways about this. I felt like we were finally seeing the end of the old model, right? Like the NCAA is basically, on fumes at this point, and we're seeing it kind of die.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making way to the way that business is going to be run in college football. And it feels, I don't know how to feel about it, because now I know that, as much as we want parity and as much as that we're talking about, giving everybody a shot, this is going to pull us even more away from it, right? Because, well, Lee, you got six right now. If we talk about this, we got 6 to 8 teams for the last 30 years, with maybe some outliers that had a chance to win a national championship. Realistically, every year they're in the conversation, and it was because they had unlimited resources and the ability to be able to take care of kids like other universities can't. The Alabamas, LSU's, Ohio State. I don't. There's 6 to 8 to 10 maybe
Yep.
that fall into this category. That doesn't change. And it actually is going to make it even more prevalent now. Let's look at Ohio State. basically just bought the kid from Bama, and I'm not mad at him. If they're gonna give $3 million to your dad for you to transfer, go get your dad that money. That's not a problem. But this is what we're seeing. It's not really the NIL. This is pay for play.
Oh,
And
that's definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
and most universities, at the way that it's currently constructed, they can't pay to play. They can't go in this realm that Ohio State and Bama and Michigan and Oregon and some of these other, they can't even compete in that stratosphere. So now we're going to get even more to the point where we only dealing with about 6 to 8 teams a year that realistically will have a shot at winning that will have the best players every year because they can pay for them and realistically have a shot to win a national title. I think you're getting further away from what you and I thought that this would end up being.
See, I disagree with you, Marv. See, you and I have had this conversation. Thank you, Miss Norma, for saying everybody doesn't deserve a shot. Well, I'll say this. I think parity is coming because let me say this: you always never miss a turn to get the SEC as the dominant. I mean, it's gosh, do you see it? You hear it? You see it? But Marv, you look at where the money is centered when you look at college football. It's not those SEC schools, though. Now, Alabama, and even Alabama, to you guys' point this year, Marv, I mean, you have an alumni base, but there's not a lot. We've had this conversation. There's not a lot of money in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But when you go to Texas A&M and you go to California, look at what Missouri is doing, Marv.
Yeah.
St. Louis, that money, that power structure. Now, of course, Oregon, they have all that Nike money. They're always. But you look at these collectives and look at what Florida State is doing with their collective. So it's about where the money centers are around this country, right? And I don't think that it's in Starkville, Mississippi, or even Oxford, Mississippi, or
Incorrect. Ole Miss is a private university. Ole Miss is a private. Ole Miss got more money flowing in.
I take that back.
Go look at the roster he just bought.
Yeah, Ole Miss is buying players like you go to the Target right now. So you're right about that. But Marv, you look at the power centers around this country. That's what I'm talking about. And that money is not set in the Southeast. It's money spread out all across this country. Wow. And that's what you're seeing in NIL, and that's going to bring parity, in my opinion.
I don't know if I agree, because if we look at the power structure when it comes to money in college football, where does it lie? And we both had this conversation recently. It's in Texas. And both of those Texas teams are in the SEC.
That's why the SEC wanted them.
Well, exactly. So nobody gonna outspend Texas A&M or Texas. Not no other college on the stratosphere is going to be able to outspend them. I don't care about how much Nike money Oregon got. Nobody will outspend those two SEC programs when it comes to getting players.
Oregon can outspend anybody they want, and that's what they do. But
it hasn't resulted into championships for them because nobody wants to play in Autzen. Nobody wants to go out and play in Oregon. That's my whole point.
I'll say this. Now, Texas, you're spot on. You're spot on. Those Texas schools, there's money to burn. But the conference as a whole, Marv, I don't see that type of money that's spread out over all of the SEC, even Tennessee.
I'm so confused because I know you're an astute businessman and you love the Dallas Cowboys. And what are the Cowboys, right?
Number one team in the world.
It's America's team. It's a brand, right? The money comes from the branding. It comes from who they are, right? So Alabama, yes, we're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but we're a brand. It is a worldwide brand. You can go anywhere in this world and somebody say Roll Tide, and I can attest to that. So it's about the branding. We all know Dallas hadn't won a championship. The branding and all the America's team hasn't led to championships, but it's still one of the richest franchises. It is the richest franchise.
Thank you for correcting that.
But that's my whole point. It's not about where they're located. It's about the brand. And most SEC schools, outside of a few, are branded really, really well.
We're going to move on. Ms. Keaton, I appreciate the comment. I'll say this in party. You're right, it's about the brand, But why was Nick Saban begging for money 2 years ago? Because all these other schools were forming their collectives and putting money in there. There's a reason he was
Sure.
begging. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. So Marv, interesting. NCAA, and I definitely want to get your comments on this. There's a proposal, and Charlie Baker even said it a couple of weeks ago that he would like to see the NCAA tournament. We're coming up on March Madness here in a couple of weeks. He would like to see the NCAA tournament increase the number of teams that are actually participating in the tournament. Right now, it's a 64 field, but it's 68 teams. They have those initial play-in games, and then they would like to see it go up to as high as 90 teams. Marv, you played college basketball, great success. On one level, you want to see all the teams have a chance, but I think they already do. They have their conferences and their conference championship tournaments. What are your thoughts about increasing the tournament from the current 68 field to 90 teams? What are your
I
thoughts about
mean, I think it's absolute garbage. I think why water down a really, really good product, right? And that's all that you're going to do. I mean, if you're doing this because you want to get some HBCUs involved and you want to get some teams that, I mean, just say it, right? But if you want to make the look, even back when I played and we made the tournament pretty much every year. If you want to make the NCAA tournament, you got plenty of time during the year to do that, right? I don't want to see the 10th best team in the SEC vie for a tournament spot. You got plenty of time during the year to do what you need to do to make the tournament. It's just that simple. You can win a conference championship. You can win big games on the road. There's plenty of big games that you have, unlike in college football where you only have maybe one or two marquee games to make a statement. You've got 10 to 12 in college basketball, right? And by the time selection Sunday comes, there's so much data on each team about wins, losses, tier 1, tier 2 wins. All there's so much data that you can take from a team to get the best 64 into the tournament. When you start watering it down with this adding these more teams, I mean, we both know what it's about, but I just don't get it. I don't understand it. The NCAA tournament is probably the most pure sporting event that we have because at any given time, somebody can win a basketball game, and it's for many. I know people love to think that a 16 seed is going to beat a one. It don't really happen much, people.
only one
Like
time?
there's not that many copping states out there beating South Carolina that was number 2 seed, and I say that because my boy BJ Mack was on that team, and I always get on him about that. But that doesn't happen that often, right?
Yeah.
And let's stop acting like it does. I mean, it makes for great TV, and those teams can hang for a half, but most of the time, depth and size plays a factor, and it just becomes a boring basketball game to watch. So I think it's an awful idea. I'm a stickler with the old ways of college basketball. If you want to get into the tournament, win. Be some of the best in your conference. Win the games that you're supposed to win. Don't lose games that you're not supposed to. Win a couple games on the road, and you'll be fighting for a tournament spot.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I was interested to see if anybody would comment. Thank you, Jesus, because the thing about it, he and some of my other people that have played college basketball, I love the comments. Thank you. He thinks that only the college football should expand and not basketball. Of the NCAA received $1 billion in revenue last year. 870 million of it came from the tournament.
Right.
Right, and so that's their bread and butter. And should they is one thing. Will they? I think they're going to do it at some point
Probably.
because they see all of this revenue. They're still locked in with Turner and CBS till 2032. If they say we're going to give you more games and more chances to get advertising, they'll turn it up in a minute and renegotiate that thing. So I think it will happen. Mark, let me ask you this: we see every year where teams go 28-4. Some of the smaller schools I'm talking about now, 28-4, lose in their conference tournament and not get in the NCAA. Would that fix that issue right there?
Yeah. I mean, that would definitely fix that issue, and I do think that some of those outliers like that, maybe there's a case to be made for it. But if you're going 28-4, you shouldn't be losing in your you just shouldn't be losing.
It
But
happens.
we get it. But listen, we get it. It happens, but But if that's the outlier that they're trying to use, then that makes a little bit more sense to me, because there are some teams that probably could come in and cause some noise, like some of those Northern Illinois teams, or St.
Yeah.
Mary's, that or Vermont, or whoever, GW, whoever we want to talk about. But there probably are some of those teams that could come in. But again, at the end of the day, the ACC, 15 national championships as a conference. I think the Pac-12 is at 15, the SEC at 11, the Big 16 now at 10. After that, the Big 12 in its current state, you only got 2 national championships in that conference right now within its current state. Like, what are we talking about here? We all know it's the 3 conferences that are going to vie for that championship at the end of the day, just like in college football. And I love the stories, but I still want to see, after that 116, when you start getting those 5 and 12, that's when it starts to get compelling. I played in a 5-12 matchup. We were the 5 seed against a Penn team. People probably don't remember this, but Matt Maloney, that played for the Rockets, and Ira Bowman, and Jerome Robinson or Anderson, whatever his name was. They had those good guards. They took us to overtime, and we had 6 NBA all-stars. We had McDyess and Jay Caffey and Jamal Faulkner. We had all them cats. And like, there's teams out there that can play, because if you got good guards, you can be in any game. And they had excellent guards. But, things like that is when it really starts to build up. But I don't want to see more of these, 90 teams with just inconsequential games that are just being made for revenue, because that's what
So
it'll
you would like to see maybe 75? I mean, is
be.
that a
That's
number that
that's
would
the
sit
that's the
well with
extent.
you?
That's the extent. Yeah, that's the extent I would go to, because I do like, as being part of the tournament, I do like what it brings to cities. I do like what players get to experience. It's like an experience you've never had.
Right,
Like I was telling you the other day, you go to arenas, and it's filled out to watch you practice, and the gear that you get, and the
right.
celebration that you get after a long year to be in this point to make the NCAA. So it's good for kids. Like I get it. It was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. But still, you still have to have a product that makes sense. When
Absolutely.
we played, the product made sense. You were playing the best of the best, and now you're going to start getting to, okay, we just filling this out for TV and revenue, and that I just don't want to see the product get really, really watered down.
Yeah, yeah. Look, the viewership is going to be there. They average 10.7
Yeah,
million viewers in that tournament, and I think expanding, they're still going to watch. I mean, but the number, that's why I wanted to get it, 75, 80, whatever that, 90, they had even talked about going up to 96 teams, Mar, or just let all of them play. That was
just let
another,
all. They're right. Just let them all
let
play.
all of them play, and that's ridiculous. But they're going to do something. The other thing that we didn't talk about that we have to throw out there as well is Title IX, right?
Yeah.
If you expand the men's, you're going to have to expand the women's. And is there a fever for expanding the women's tournament past what they have as well? I don't know if that's there. Some of my women athletes, please chime in, comment, let us know what your thoughts are. Some of our ladies that are on on the chat right now, let us know what your thoughts about the women's tournament, because there are Title IX implications as well for what the NCAA will have to do. And look, they don't like spending that much money. They want to
No.
bring money in. They don't want to spend money. So that's part of it as well. But I like to see some of the lower teams that had great years that don't get the shine. I think about Furman a couple of years ago when
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
lost in their championship game. They should have made the tournament that year. I saw them play live. They were good enough to make the tournament, and they didn't. So we'll keep an eye on that, Marv, and we'll definitely keep watching to see what the ultimate size of the tournament's going to be, and then we'll bridge that again.
But before you move on, I think you made a really good point though about the women's side in Title IX, because if you look at the tournament now, when it's time for the women's, you can barely find a game. Like
Yeah,
there's no, it's just not the same. It's not
yeah,
marketed the same. It's on at really odd times on Sundays,
yeah,
and so that's a really good point. Like,
yeah.
are you really going to do that for the women's game? Because I don't know if it would have that much support in terms of expanding their field, but you'd have to do it.
You
So that's
have
a
to
good
do it.
point, Lee.
You have to
Yeah.
do it. Well, I've always thought this, Marvin, and last point I want to ask, because I want to ask you this specifically about the women's and the men's tournament and being at the same site and running those games in the pods like they do at the same time. It was always a thought of mine that, similar to how the old high school model was, you play the men's and women. Would that be something that would be more engaging for the women's game as well, to have those games in the same cities at the same time in the same pods in the same format? What are your thoughts about that, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that would just build excitement. I think that people go to NCAA games because either they're affiliated to the school or they just love the pageantry of the NCAA tournament, and putting them all at one site, whatever that region is. And I think that would be a great idea. And I think that would be really great for women's basketball. You'll have some holdovers that would stay and watch the women's game, or already
Absolutely.
be there for the men. So yeah, that's a really good option. And I think that that would be something that could definitely help and bring a lot of attention to the women's game.
Because sometimes, when your team loses and then you
Yep.
have to get back all those tickets, you have empty seats. And so
Yep.
those
You have
women's games
MC.
fill that void. So that's something we'll talk about as we get on. I have to jump into this, Marv. The NFL Combine is next week, starts next week. And as you know, it's the prodding, it's I call it the horse trading, the prodding. Oh, it's just. I wanted to say something else, Marvin. I don't think I was going to say that. My mouth said shut up. My mind was telling me to say it, but but, but you know what I'm saying, bro. And you're prodding, you're measuring, you're looking at their teeth, their hands, their buttocks, their legs, everything at the combine. The other thing that they do at the combine is they do the Wonderlic test. And Mark, we're in education, and we know what the Wonderlic test consists of. You have it's time. You have to go in and do these tests, and it's one thing to do it. I don't think you really have to do it. I don't think it's necessary to do it because I played football, you play back. Most of sports is motor skills, reactionary skills. Now, a quarterback has to be able to process information. But look, if you've been playing quarterback since you were 6 years old, I think you can process information to be a quarterback. So some agencies are not allowing or going to allow their players to take the Wonderlic at the combine. Your thoughts?
I think it's great. Number one, that they're saying the Wonderlic really holds no value when it comes to playing the sport of football. Yes, as a quarterback, you do have to process information, but if you've ever taken the Wonderlic test, geometric shapes and vowels
Right.
and and
Right.
reading comprehension has nothing to do with processing information in terms. Now the speed in which you do it, I guess maybe you could take something from that, but none of that is going to be on a football field. So, but we all know what this has always been about with the Wonderlic and the data. I love data. The data shows you that, right? It shows you that white quarterbacks that got like 10, I think it was 9 or 10 points more on the Wonderlic, that it increased their draft stock by 14 spots.
Mm-hmm.
The black quarterback, it increased it by 6 spots. So to have a test that we all know from a socioeconomic, and we can kind of go into the whole education spiel about it, but we all come from different backgrounds, and what we learn and what we see, we all process differently depending on where we kind of come from. So I do like the fact that the NFL has changed. They're doing the S2 now, or whatever it's called. That now depends on, they got a joystick now, and it's more psychological, and it's more about seeing things on the screen and reacting to it, which is more like an NFL setup. But we all know that the Wonderlic, and the fact that NFL teams would leak scores. Lee, I know you
Very
probably gonna have a lot to say this, and it directly affected black athletes, quarterbacks specifically, more than any other group throughout the NFL history. And that's not even, you can't even debate that. That's,
yeah.
like as they said, numbers don't lie. And the numbers don't lie when it comes to that. It is indirectly affected more, or directly affected more black quarterbacks than any other group in the draft process.
Absolutely. Jesus, you're right. I was trying to get auction out out of my mind. I probably was going to add a different word in front of auction, Marv. But but hey, thank you, Jesus. I appreciate that. To your point, Marv, you know, the leaking of the information is what bothers me so much. And what happens, and we know this because it's been proven every year. CJ Stroud was a prime example last year, right? They leaked his Wonderlic test. Teams do it for a number of reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams do it so they can drop, and maybe they drop to them at their pick, they leak it. But also, there's still a issue with some of our white GMs, some of our white player personnel people not valuing the African American quarterback, and they try to push some of our white quarterbacks up on the draft board and have these other players fall out or not even look at what they're saying about Caleb Williams. And you can debate whether Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the NFL, but no one can get me to believe that he's not a generational talent that's going to come in and be effective in the league. But what happens is this is the time of year from the end of the season to the NFL draft where everybody wants to tear down people. And they tear down the black quarterback more than anything. And they use these Wonderlic tests and these cognitive tests to do it, because they leak it to make it seem like they cannot process information. They cannot think on the field or think on the fly, which is ridiculous. And it's been debunked and proven wrong over and over again. But here it is again. It still happens year after year after year. So I'm very extremely happy that these agencies are not even allowing them to do it, because they have to take control of their athletes and own their athletes and say, no, we're not going to even do that. So if we fall, fine. Go ahead, Mark.
And you know what a prime example was, and I just think about this recently as you were sitting here talking, was Vince Young.
Absolutely.
When he got to 7 on the Wonderlic, and it stayed with him. He also went to the worst coach he probably could have went to. I think it was Jeff Jones. I think it was Jeff Jones that he went to in Tennessee when he got drafted, or wherever he ended up going first.
Jeff
Uh,
Fisher.
Jeff Fisher, not
Yeah.
Jeff Fisher, but it lingered with him throughout his career. The fact that he got a 7 and that he couldn't process information. What I would like to do is, how about we Wonderlic some of these dumbass coaches that we have that make some of these.
Absolutely.
I mean, seriously, I know we talked about Kyle Shanahan the other day, but I mean, you got to be kind of slow if you're gonna sit there and try to pass the ball more than you're gonna run the ball. Or the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken. I mean, because
Yeah.
they make some pretty dumbass decisions when it comes to, but nobody questions their intellect or their ability to process information or improvise during the game. So let's make it fair, because we see some pretty idiotic coaches out there that make some real stupid decisions on the sideline, but they never get questioned, for their intellect or whether they can process information. It's just that, oh, maybe they're not a good enough coach.
Absolutely, Mark. Great points. Jesus, 43 on one of the tests. Look, man, we need to get you there to help us get these
Hey,
rockets
Jesus, I'm
and
telling you.
stop Russia from sending the nuclear thing up there. You're a smart young man. But let me say this, Mark, to your point on Vince Young, it literally ended his career,
Yeah,
because
it did.
after he and Jeff Fisher fell out, and they and Vince threw the pads in the stands or whatever, no one would touch him, because
Mhm.
they had a stereotypical evaluation of him, and it was that he was not a smart guy. And
Yep.
to your point, excellent point. And they tried to do that with CJ Stroud last year as
Mhm.
well. And you saw what that brother did this year. I'm so happy that he was rookie of the year and proved all of that wrong, because that's what happens in the NFL. You're going to hear it over and over and over as this cycle happens all the way leading up to the draft. So kudos to those agencies that are not allowing their players to take the Wonderlic, because I certainly agree with what you're saying, Marvin, and great points. Any follow-up to that?
No, good points. Let's move on. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it over
So
and
our
over
last
again.
topic of the our last topic of the day, I definitely want to get this. This is my basketball guy, so I listen most of the time anyway. I ain't gonna say all the time, because he's my basketball guy. But come on, man, sometimes he's out there with it. I don't know what's going on sometimes, but this is my guy. So I wanted to put this on the agenda, Marv. We just saw the All-Star game. We talked about that last week. Trash, but Coming out of the All-Star game, who's your favorite for MVP?
I mean, it would have been easy if Embiid didn't get hurt. He was his stats were. I think he was shooting close to 60% from the field, if I'm not mistaken. Averaging close to 35. Like what he was doing was pretty phenomenal, and the efficiency in which he was doing it. Like nobody's seen how efficient he had been playing. So he would have been my number one choice, hands down, running away with it. Now you got about two or three guys that's really in the mix. The guy to me that I think is going to end up with the MVP is the kid from Oklahoma City, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
SGA. Okay, okay,
Listen, and the
okay.
reason I say that is because it's not because now trust me, he's phenomenal. I love to watch him
Phenomenal
play.
player. Phenomenal player.
I love his game, but his team is going to have a lot of opportunities going down the stretch for him to shine, for him to have the ball in his hand, for him to be, to put up the stats and the numbers because they're going to be fighting for playoff position and spots. I wanted to say Jason Tatum, but going down the stretch, he's not going to be forced to do much. They are pretty much who they are at this point. They're going to cruise into the playoffs probably as the number one seed. They don't need him to do as much. Jokic. I mean, Jokic is who he is. I think they'll stay away from Jokic just because you probably could give it to him every year at this point for the numbers and the stats that he puts up, and he's a phenomenal player. I don't take anything from him. I know you probably gonna lean towards some of them Dallas Mavericks because that's just what you
And
do.
I'm just gonna say,
But
finish first, bro. Go ahead.
but I don't like the kid Luka in Dallas. I mean, I like him as a talent, but I don't think Luka affects the game the way that everybody loves to say that he does. Offensively, yeah, like he's tremendous offensively, but outside of that, he gets lost a lot on defense. He's a liability actually on the other end. He doesn't rebound well. He doesn't affect the game in other areas that I like stars to affect the game. Like Jokic, he affects the game on so many different levels, and I think Shai is going to have the chance to do that because he's got a young team. The ball's going to be in his hand. He's great on both ends of the floor. He's great at all four levels. I know people talk about three, but he's great at all four levels of basketball. And I think he's going to be able to kind of prove his point going down the stretch because all of his games are going to matter more. Jokic, not as much. So that's kind of where I fall with this. I wanted to say Giannis at first, but I think Doc is a liability for them, and I don't know how they're going to figure out the Dame Giannis. I just don't know if that combination works as well as people thought it was going to work. So Shai is going to be my choice.
And that's a great choice. The man's averaging 31 points a game, 6 assists a game, shooting 54% from the field, 5 rebounds, and actually shooting 38% from 3-point line. I mean,
Yeah, there you
he's a
go.
fluid, smooth guy too. I love him, Marv. He's great. So great choice. Great choice by you, Giannis. Giannis shooting almost 62% from the field. I mean, he's killing people, but the guy shoots 65% from the line.
Yeah.
Can't throw it in the ocean. So great choice. But Marv, come on, man. Let's be real with this. By the way, I have to stop. Hey, Zeus, don't ever say anything about Dallas coaches or Jerry Jones again. That's blasphemy. Okay, I just wanted to get that in there as he made his comment.
Come
I
on,
didn't like
Jesus.
that.
Perfect, brother. I appreciate that.
I didn't like that. You just watch what you say. Watch your mouth, as they say. My choice, Marv, is Luka Doncic. Let's be honest about this. You don't like Luka. I don't know why you don't like Luka. Look, people have to understand what Luka Doncic is. Luka Doncic averaged 51% points, 51 points on points and assisted per game. That's the highest average ever in the NBA. Highest average ever. 51.7 points a game. So he's either scoring or assisting on 51 points a game. Tremendous, right? Tremendous. He's averaging 34.3 points a game, Marv. 8.8 rebounds. He's shooting 38% from three-point range, and he's shooting 49% from the field. And they're 33 and 23. What is there not to like? They're in sixth place, a half a game out of fifth, and I can see Dallas moving up to close. They can make it to the fourth slot. They need to do that so that they can have home court advantage throughout the first and second round. But there's nobody in the NBA that's playing better than Luka right now, Marv. And for me, it's Luka Doncic for all the reasons. He and Kyrie, you beat me up all the time about the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, it's like Dallas can't play. But you see it, you just don't want to admit it. With those trades, getting Gafford and trading for PJ Washington from Charlotte, they've gotten bigger. They've gotten lively. It's great. They're bigger. They're much more bigger and physical than they were last year. Watch out for the Mavericks winning the title this year, Marv. I'm telling you, we're going to have a chance to talk about it, but watch out for them. But my MVP is Luka Doncic, and I'll give you a few minutes because we have about 2 minutes left to rebut my MVP.
I'm not even, Jesus, I think you're going to start to see a narrative as you watch this show a little bit more that Lee is all about the glitz and the glamour and the surface, right? He don't like the grimy. He don't like the players that, got to get it out of the mud like Shy's get it out of the mud and carrying that young team. He like that surface stuff with Luka. It looks good. It's pretty and all that, but it doesn't really result into much. Luka, he doesn't win many games. He's talking about getting him to the 4th spot. Well, yeah, he should with the acquisitions they got. If they don't make the 4th spot, that's a detriment on him. That's talking about him as a leader and as a player. But we're going to see where this comes out. But hold this space. He just said Dallas would win the NBA championship.
I think they have a legitimate shot to win the NBA championship.
So everybody, let's make sure we hold that space, okay? Mark it down. 11 o'clock, wherever you are right now. Let's mark this down because I think I might have just heard the craziest thing that I've heard all month.
Yeah. And they have a legitimate shot. They have 2 scorers at any time that can take over the game. Watch what I tell you, and we'll be here to discuss it. I want all your friends, all your boys to call in because I want to get their opinion the next time because you're kind of biased. You don't like Kyrie Irving, so you don't like Kyrie, so you're always going to be biased against Kyrie. So I know that's why you hate on the Mavericks. But, hey, guys, we're going to stay in that space. The NBA second half has started, and the playoffs is coming. Luka Doncic, keep watching. Hey, guys, we've come to the end of another show. Hey, please like, subscribe, tell a friend. Guys, turn on your notifications so you can get the show whenever it comes on. It'll pop right on for you. Subscribe, help us move up. This is how we do it. You remember my guy Marv, we chop it up. We talk about real topics as well. We don't just sugarcoat it. So, guys, please like, subscribe, comment. We love you guys being interactive. Today's show has been great. We'll be back on next week. I'm Lee Jones. That's my guy, Marvin Orange. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate all the comments. We'll talk to you next week.